Hey everybody, this is John at Pale Desert Recordings. A good friend of mine suggested I do a little record tour, and I figured it'd be a good idea to kind of give y'all an idea of sort of where I come from musically and where my mind works, that sort of thing. So I'll start with all the technical stuff and then we can get down to the records here shortly. So the speakers are just kind of like Sony 5-inch speakers. They're nothing crazy, but they get the job done, and I quite like how they sound. So, yeah. The turntable is a Technics SL220. This only has 33 and 45, which is basically all I need anyway. It's like a entry level from like the late 70s, early 80s. This was actually my mom's. This is actually my mom's from when she was in her like late 20s, which I kind of like put back together and then kind of added things of my own. Speaking of adding things, acrylic platter. I much prefer this over the felt. It is a little bit more to clean, but it is very nice. I don't know. I just prefer it. And this is the Ortofon Blue 2M. This is probably the most expensive part of the entire setup besides the receiver, which we'll get to in a second, because this was gifted to me by a very nice customer at the store that I work at. And this is a $200 cartridge that he just gave to me for being a nice person, and I greatly appreciate it, and I owe him quite a bit for this. I will never use anything other than this unless I get something nicer than that, and then I will use that, but I will always default to the Ortofon Blue. Okay, so the receiver is just a little Denon. Again, nothing crazy. This just kind of facilitates everything that I need. I used to, before I moved, have this running all of my sound. So like my CD player, my record player, and my TV and everything used to go through this. Not really feasible now, but that's fine. I could downsize, but it's just, I've had it, so I might as well just keep it. The preamp that I'm using, I don't know the name of it because I think I bought it off of Amazon at random because the other one was a piece of shit and this one is actually rather nice. I do have another preamp that I'm looking at getting, and I really, really would like to get it. I just haven't had the money. But, yeah, another important step. And then I just have some, like, inner sleeves and outer sleeves. I'm running out of both of these. And then some Bear Dynamic headphones, which I use usually for recording vocals. But since I don't record vocals in my apartment at the moment, they just get hooked up to the Denon so I can listen to records when I don't want to listen through the speakers or whatever. So, I guess we'll start alphabetically. I might not have too much to say about every single one because this would be a really long video. But I'll try to come up with some interesting things to say. First up, we have the self-titled 30 Seconds to Mars record. This was a rather important record to me in high school, in early high school. This is around the time that I started getting into not only metal, but like sort of different forms of the alternative metal that I was already listening to. Say what you will about, I fucking hate Jared Leto. I really don't like what the band went, but this record is killer. Like, I love this shit to death. Next up, we have A Perfect Circle, Mare de Noms. This is the only good A Perfect Circle record. I don't really like 13 Steps. It has a few songs, but most of it is kind of boring, and then the other records I really don't care for. But this one is almost perfect. So I really enjoy that one. We have Rare Form by After the Burial. This is like a anniversary edition. Again, early high school, I can't play this on guitar to save my life, but I memorized every single note of this record at one point, and I probably still know all of it. In Dreams, which is the next in the line of After the Burial records, this one's also great. A lot more like traditional metalcore-y, but with a lot of the After the Burial touch, which I really like. Al Di Meola, this one still has the sticker on it. I haven't actually listened to this one. I just like collecting jazz fusion records because I really like jazz fusion. Al Di Meola is great. And then we have the Alan Holdsworth collection, which I'm just kind of really quickly go through because there's quite a bit of them, and I don't have a lot to say about them all individually, but Alan Holdsworth is my favorite guitar player. I think he is the greatest guitar player, and he is the only, not that one, he is the only reliable answer for who is the greatest guitar player, because this guy really just did his own thing. I love him to death, and I don't think anybody will ever sound like him or ever try to get even close to him anymore. Whatever that makes of me, that's whatever. I'm never going to play like him, but that's fine, because I don't really want to, because he was perfect. Here's the first Allure Crucible record. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Toby Driver. You will see quite a bit of his records in here other than this. But this is like a really nice new agey record. I don't have Oak Lace Apparition, which is the newest one, but I really like that one, and I wish I had grabbed it. Excuse my foot being in frame. The Blue Velvet soundtrack, Angelo Badalamenti, directed by David Lynch. It's just fucking perfect. Not much else to say. And then we have these two Aquilus records, Grisius and Bellum 1. I don't have Bellum 2, but Bellum 2 is great. Very, very riffy symphonic black metal. It's like some of the only black metal that I still consistently listen to. Grisius especially was one of the first I ever heard. And this really cemented my love of that form of like symphonic, slightly melodic black metal. What we got next? This is just like a collection of ballads and folk songs from North Carolina, because that's where I'm at. Boss Gags, Lowdown. This is one of my dad's favorite records, and I actually do quite like it, so I stole it from him. Brand X, we have Masks, and then Is There Anything About, which I forgot the name of just now. Brand X, also a great jazz fusion band. I don't think either of these are the ones that Phil Collins is on. I think he might be on this one. I can't remember exactly, but Phil Collins was part of this band. It's great. It is fantastic. They've been around for ages. We have a couple. We just have two, actually. I used to have another one. We have the In Contact, and I forgot the name of this one. You can tell I haven't listened to it yet, even though I've owned it for almost 2 years. I really like Caligula's Horse, actually. They're a great modern progressive metal band. The vocalist is fantastic. The guitar playing is fantastic. There's a lot of really neat songwriting things that happen in these records. I love the art that they do. Their art is fantastic. Charcoal Grace. I really need to listen to this one, actually. Chicago, that's just kind of random in the collection at this point. Chick Corea and Return to Forever, Light as a Feather. Another great jazz fusion legends. Chick Corea and Return to Forever. I used to have Return to Forever, and I used to have Chick Corea, and I used to have Chick Corea's Return to Forever. But I don't have any of those anymore. I just have this one, but I'm going to build that collection back up when I can. Yeah, if you know, you know, right? These two are actually very interesting, because this is the first set of my friends having records. So both of these, this is Lawn, and this is, I forgot the name of this one. I Am Sorry, Christian. High Rising Times, that's right. So, Christian Cosentino, Australian symphonic pop black metal. He is a good friend. I have heard demos for both of these records for years and years, and I'm very, very glad that I get to own them physically. They're great. I don't really have much else to say. I think I've talked to Christian like a million times about how great these records are, but they're really fantastic if you like symphonic black metal with a bit more of a pop element. Very, very Devin Townsend-esque. Imagine if Devin Townsend made black metal records. That's kind of what these are like. I should say like later mid-career Devin Townsend. Debussy and Ravel. That joke's in there now. And then my Coheed collection. So we have the first 4 Coheed records. In the World for Tomorrow, Good Apollo, In Keeping Secrets, and the Second State Turbine Blade. I do actually really like Coheed. Coheed is a rather important band to me, surprisingly. Especially the early stuff, just for the sake of they do this sort of like prog rock, like concept record throughout almost their entire discography, which I really, really enjoy. I'm a sucker for concept albums, which you will probably notice. I don't think we've gotten to a concept album quite yet. I think In Contact kind of counts, but not really. Speaking of concept albums, I don't know if you would count this as well. It's just kind of conceptually about space stuff. The Exoplanet by The Contortionist, and then we also have Language, and then also Clairvoyant. Clairvoyant is my favorite of the Contortionist's whole discography. I think this record is perfect, like legitimately 100% perfect. I love Language. Language was a very, very important discovery for me. And Exoplanet is also there. I do love Exoplanet too, but I really love Language, and I really love Clairvoyant. They kind of changed my mind about what you can do in prog metal and like that sort of almost djenty type thing. We will get to that later as well. So we have the other collection that I have. These records are all fantastic. We have Cult Leader. I love Cult Leader to death. They're like a metallic hardcore band from Salt Lake City. I own almost everything they've ever put out on vinyl. I'm very proud of that fact. They were a huge revelation for me when I first got into sort of like hardcore and like different forms of metal besides prog and like death and black, which was what I was mainly listening to. Cult Leader, fantastic music, just absolutely the heaviest band that I know. And I would be very, very sad if I never got to see them again. I have friends who have played with them. I hope to God I get to see friends play with them live at some point, and I'm there in person. Cult Leader, please come to Raleigh so I can enjoy your music again live. Or enjoy it for the first time live, I guess I should say. Then we have The Cure. I don't feel like pulling all these out, but everybody, you should own at least one Cure record if you're into music at all. My favorite is Wish. I will pull that one out at least. People don't like this one because it has Friday I'm in Love and a bunch of like, people say it's like too like all over the place because there's like really happy songs and really depressing songs, and that's why I love this record, because it is all over the place and I'm also all over the place. So, it's attached to me, and I have like a lot of personal meaning attached to this as well, so that sort of belies that. I will not pull out the Deftones records, but I own basically everything that they have besides, I think, Adrenaline, Gore, and B-Sides and Rarities, and out of those three, I think I really only want B-Sides and Rarities. My favorite is the newest record. It used to be Koi. This is the Koi that we should have gotten instead of all the other albums between Koi and this, but Private Music is fantastic, and I love it to death, so I'm really, really happy with that. I do have another copy that's like hidden away because I just decided that I wanted another copy of it, and I wanted the purple one because I briefly worked at a record store that let me have it. Devin Townsend's Infinity Remaster. I'm a big Devin Townsend fan. I think anybody who knows me knows that basically all of my musical career has been modeled after Devin Townsend. So yeah, what else can I say about that? I love Infinity. It's like a big sort of musical theater orgasm. It's like crazy and wild and wacky and kind of upsetting in places, but like knowing where he was at mentally when he was making this record and kind of how it came together, that makes sense. We have Empath. This is the record that got me through my senior year of high school. If it wasn't for this and my obsession with Mr. Bungle and Ocean Machine, I probably would not have survived the end of high school, so I have a lot of personal meaning attached to this one, even though I don't listen to it a ton. And then we have his newest record, Power Nerd, which actually is pretty good. It is not great, but it's definitely like up there in the sort of like middling Devin Townsend records. It's probably like the best of his like 7 out of 10s, I think. We have these two Dismemberment Plan records. We have Change, and we have Emergency and I. I think a lot of people know Emergency and I if they were into sort of like the indie and emo scenes when this record came out in the 90s. Or was it the early 2000s? I can't remember. These two records were late finds in my musical journey, but I love them to death, and I swap between which one of them is my favorite. I think Change usually is my favorite just because it's got a little bit more of a... like, they're definitely a much more mature band with this one. They definitely like up their songwriting game, and Travis's lyrics on this one like hit a lot more, surprisingly, because like the other one's still kind of wacky, but this one's a lot more grounded, and I feel more like I like them more, like I can relate to them a little bit more. Quintessence by Dodecahedron. This is the best black metal band that ever existed, and I wish the vocalists were still with us. He died, unfortunately, a long time ago, but this is such a great record. Go listen to this record if you're into like weird avant-garde black metal stuff. It is fantastic. It is the best one. I don't care. And then following up that, we have our first proper concept album. I think I missed whatever. No, I talked about that earlier. Edge of Sanity's Crimson. This is the remaster version. This is not the remix version, because the remix version fucking sucks. I don't know what Dan Swana was thinking. He should have not done that remix. It is terrible, but this is the remastered version, so it's just like the original audio, but it sounds a little bit nicer. This is a perfect record. It is 40 minutes continuous music. This is a masterclass in how you can take like 6 or 7 riffs and make an entire record out of that. And then I haven't really listened to the rest of Edge of Sanity. I don't really like any of their other records. It's just this one. I think they really kind of nailed it with that one. I'm going to get to the box sets later because I have a couple of them that are going to come up at the end. I do have a Failure box set, but we have these 3, which are the most recent. These are like the post-reunion Failure records. Wild Type Android. In the future, your body will be the furthest thing from your mind, and The Heart is the Monster. In the Future really went up in my ranks of Failure records recently. My favorite was Fantastic Planet for a really long time, and then I also really love Magnified, and Comfort's okay. I didn't like this one, The Heart is a Monster, for a really long time, but I actually really do enjoy it now. But In the Future sounds like the follow-up to Fantastic Planet, the way that The Heart of the Monster doesn't really sound like that. It sounds like they're trying to get back into the groove of it, and then in this one, they really find the fucking groove of it. This is a great, great record. Sorry I'm cursing so much. I just get excited. And then Wild Type Android I haven't spent a lot of time with, but I know I like the songs. I just haven't messed with it enough to really know how I feel about it properly yet. Fleetwood Mac's Rumors. If you're fucking 50 years old, you have this record. I am 50 years old. Apparently. Fleshwater. Ooh, yeah. So the newest Fleshwater. Great. I actually really, really, really enjoy this. I don't know if I enjoy it more than We're Not Here to Be Loved. But 2000 In Search of Sky. In Search of the Endless Sky, sorry. Nice little throwback records. They're like a combination of sort of like new metal and alternative metal, very like Deftones-esque. This one's very Deftones-esque, this one less so. This one, they kind of have their own little thing going, which I really like. Very much reminiscent of like early 2000s alternative music, which I love to death. That's something that Free Will Agonist was trying to do, and I don't think it necessarily succeeds, but it's sort of like the way I interpret that now. But these guys and gal, I have a crush on their singer. These guys and gal are fantastic, and I love them to death. And I would be honored to play with them, because I think maybe Free Will Agonist is pretty close enough that I could tour with them if I had a band together, which I don't. But if I did, it would be really, really sick to tour with these people, because they seem to have the same sort of mindset that I do with that sort of like aesthetic goal. Duke Genesis is the only Genesis record that I have that is actually a repress on Milky White vinyl. Sorry I'm not getting any of the vinyl actually out, but there's a lot to go through. I might do a follow-up where I go through my favorite looking like actual pieces. But Duke is another important record for me. I love this record front to back. Maybe nobody knows that I'm a big Genesis fan, or I used to be a big Genesis fan, and I've kind of like fallen back behind it, but I love Duke. I think it is the perfect intersection between the more poppier 80s stuff and the like 70s like prog stuff with Peter Gabriel. Peter Gabriel's not on this record. He was well gone by this point, but Phil Collins does a great job filling in for him, and they still have a lot to say musically with this stuff, so I really, really love this record. Okay. Now we have Gorguts, we have Pleiades Dust, and Colored Sands. I wish I had the other records. I wish I had Erosion of Sanity and Obscura especially, and then also From Wisdom to Hate, because I actually really, really love From Wisdom to Hate. I might like it a little bit more than Obscura. But these two records are great. This is another like 30-minute song. And then Colored Sands is like the first album they made when they kind of really came back in the 2010s. Great dissonant death metal. They were ahead of the curve in the 90s. Luc Lemay is like a hero of mine, even though he is from French Canada, and I don't trust any of the French Canadians. But I would trust Luc Lemay because he makes great riffs, and that is all that I need. And then we have the Haken collection. I do really like Haken. I did have a copy of Visions, but I got rid of it because it sounds terrible. Thank you, Eric, for selling me that, and it sounds so terrible that I finally decided to sell it after so many years. I'm sorry. I just can't. I couldn't handle it. Also, I don't really listen to that record enough to really want to hold on to it. I should say also, I used to have way more metal records in this collection, but I sold a bunch of them because I found that I don't really listen to those all that much when I want to spin records. Then we have the Hum records. We have Electra 2000. I actually have recently rediscovered why I like this. Sorry, I should rephrase that. I didn't like this at all for many, many years, and then I got this record, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to take it home and give it a shot, and then I did, and I was like, oh, shit, yeah, this was actually a great record. Very, very different from all the other stuff, but this is also just great in its own right. And then you have Downward is Heavenward, which is the follow-up to You'd Prefer an Astronaut. This is so much better than You'd Prefer an Astronaut. If You Prefer an Astronaut is a 7 out of 10, this is a 10 out of 10, and I'm going to stand behind that. The songs are better. They do a lot more of the stuff that's on You'd Prefer an Astronaut way better. So if you haven't listened to this one and you've listened to You'd Prefer an Astronaut, if you've listened to Stars a million times when it was on the radio all the time, this is like way more of that, which you would enjoy. And then you have Inlet, which is the record that they kind of surprise dropped on everybody in 2020. This is like my third favorite record of all time. I love this record to death. There is nothing about this that I don't like. In fact, it inspired an entire science fiction novel that I've been like poking at for like 3 years now, and I'll probably poke at for another 10 or 15. God, I love this record to death. I will never live without it. What's next? We got Thick as a Brick, Jethro Tull. I used to have a very big Jethro Tull collection because I really like Jethro Tull. But this is the only one that I have still remaining. Thick as a Brick. Also, funnily enough, another like whole album that's just one piece of music. This was Ian Anderson being like, no, Aqualung is not a concept record. If you want to see a concept record, here it is. And then he made a concept record where it's about, I think it's like a kid who, I can't remember what the story is anymore, but this is a great record. If you like really long, drawn out prog stuff, which I do. Oh, I missed this. Whoops. Jerry Reed, When You're Hot, You're Hot, which is another hit single of his. Amos Moses is a song that my dad used to play on the radio or in the car all the time, and I loved it. So I found this record, and I was like, I have to take it home. I do like Jerry Reed. We haven't gotten to the rest of the country records yet, but we'll get there. This is a Black Curtain by Jodis. I haven't actually listened to this record. I just happened to have it because it was sent to me by Aaron Turner, because I bought, we'll get to it in a minute, I bought a KO Dot record from him, and he sent me a bunch of really, really cool stuff, including this and a Barbaro 7-inch, which is fantastic. That's also hidden away with the other Deftones record. So I'll give this a listen at some point. I've heard it's really good. Carnival Themata. This is a great progressive metal band from Australia. Also Caligula's Horses from Australia. These guys were doing it back in the early 2000s. Like a weird mixture of prog metal and new metal a little bit. The next record after this, Sound Awake, I used to really not like. And then I discovered, oh shit, I actually love that record. But I don't have it on vinyl because I waited too long. So here we are. This is great. This is also one of the best sounding records that I have in my entire collection, which is funny because it's also one of the cheapest. All right, what do we got next? The KO Dot collection. This is Don't Touch Dead Animals, which is a split that they did with Bloody Panda. Their side is great. KO Dot's side is fantastic. Blue Atmosphere Downward. This is like the jazz record. Sorry, Stained Glass. This is my niece's favorite KO Dot record. It is really, really funny that my niece actually used to ask me to play this record all the time. I hope when she gets a little bit older, she wants to listen to the rest of KO Dot, because I would be a very, very happy uncle in that case. And then we have Coyote and Gamma Knife, Habardo. We have almost all of KO Dot's records besides a handful. Obviously, Choirs of the Eye I don't have because I used to have it, and then I sold it because I desperately needed money, and I wish I didn't have to need money. So I could still have Choirs of the Eye because that's a fantastic record. But I'm happy to have these at least. At some point I need Dowsing, and I need what's the other one? Oh, Moss. Yeah, that's right. So this is their newest record, Every Rock, Every Half Truth Under Reason. I love this record, actually. This is a very, very different experience. This is not music in a traditional sense at all, and I really, really enjoy it. I had to shift the way I listen to music in order to really appreciate this record. But this is worthy. This is definitely worthy. Oracle by Severed Head especially is just, I love that song to death. Then we have two King Crimsons here. We have In the Court of the Crimson King. Again, if you were alive in the 60s, you probably have this record. If you didn't, I'm sorry. This is a fantastic record. I think this is a remix by Steven Wilson. I know I talked to somebody recently about how they didn't really like the Steven Wilson remixes, but I think they're pretty alright. And then we have Red, which is great. Not much to say about that one. And then more Friends bands. Woo! We have Knoll, and like a couple of their splits that they did, and this little flexi disc that I think is long lost at this point. Fun fact, I printed a bunch of tapes for them. That's not really much of a fun fact. I usually give that to people all the time because it's like, oh, I know this band. But I love them to death. These guys are such great individuals, fantastic musicians. As Spoken is like the most clarified statement of their whole career so far, and they're only getting better. I love Jamie and I love Lucas to death. They're sweethearts. I've known them for a very long time. I've known Lucas especially for a very long time, and I'm very happy to see them be so successful as they are now. Sorry, I'm having to move my couch because we're getting towards the end of the actual thing here. Some Chris Christopherson. I just bought these records because I kind of wanted to fill out the country collection a little bit more. And we have Mahavishnu Orchestra, Birds of Fire. I found this at work, and I was like, that's crazy. This is another great, like, jammy jazz fusion sort of thing. Mahavishnu Orchestra is a different sort of jazz fusion, I feel like, from the rest of their contemporaries, but in a very, very interesting and cool way. Definitely to give this one a go. And then we have the Model of the Well collection, My Fruit Psychobells, Bath, Leaving Your Body Map, and Part the Second. Model of the Well changed my life when I listened to them a couple years ago. I think I first heard them in 2018 or 2019. I can't remember exactly, but it was a friend in a Deftones fan server, funnily enough, was like, hey, you would like Model of the Well. They kind of do the kind of music that you would like. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of these guys. Let me listen to them. And I did. And I had an actual, like, full-on manic depressive episode. And that's kind of what led me to being diagnosed with being bipolar. So I always like to tell that story. But this is, like, such great music. And you cannot touch this. Like, nobody will get close. Much like Alan Holdsworth back there. Nobody will ever get close to what Model of the Well was doing back in the day. KO Dot is the same main guy, Toby. I should have said that. Toby Driver, who did the Allura Crucible, and that was his face on that record, also is the main songwriter for KO Dot and was the main songwriter for Model of the Well. He composes a bunch of shit. He's fantastic. We have another few of his records later. But Model of the Well really just like changed my life and changed the way that I thought about prog and like music in general. Just what you were capable of doing, and what Toby and all of them were capable of doing in their early 20s, just like right out of college, was crazy to me. And then I got really depressed because I couldn't do that. But that's okay. What else we got? So we have some Merle Haggards here, actually, right after the Model of the Well. Again, these ones I just kind of bought to fill out because these are childhood memories for me. Mother Earth's Plantasia, Mort Garson. This is a record that was recommended to me by a new friend, and I'm very appreciative of it because I now have a little plant friend that sits next to the kitchen when I cook. This is also just like very nice, old school, warm analog synthy stuff. So this is just nice to listen to in general. We have Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love, and Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge, the remix and remaster, My Chemical Romance. This was a band that was very important to me when I was in middle school. And then I had to stop listening to it because I had a bunch of really bad negative associations with it for many, many years. And then the remix came out, and I was like, let me go back and listen to it. And I did, and I've been depriving myself of such fantastic records for years. This is my favorite. I still really, really like this one. That's why I own it. This is the Best Day Ever. And there's a Panic at the Disco song also that was also kind of like about hospitals. Inspired a horror short story that I wrote in middle school that also inspired a horror novel that I was working on a couple of years ago, and then I stalled out at like 11,000 words, but maybe I'll get back to it. It was kind of interesting. And we have a couple of Nine Inch Nails here. Downward Spiral, With Teeth, and then Nantucket kind of got... Sorry, Nantucket doesn't belong there. I'll just quickly talk about Nantucket. They're a local band that my dad used to like, so I bought this record. And then Not the Actual Events, which I got for a very nice deal. I love Nine Inch Nails. I have two semi-box sets of their stuff. Well, actually, it's just the Fragile and Deviations one, which is the instrumental versions of Fragile. We'll get to those in a second. But I love Nine Inch Nails, and I love Trent Reznor, and he is one of my heroes. And then we have the Oceanside stuff. We have FLRS, Everyone Into Position, and Home and Minor, which was one of the most recent represses that they did. This was actually never pressed on vinyl originally. It's not on streaming or anything, which is kind of unfortunate. But I'm happy to have it on vinyl, and then I have like my own little download of it. This is such a great little EP that they did. And then FLRS, again, just one of those things where like my mind is blown by what you can achieve with music, and this band is the reason I stopped, or one of the reasons I stopped doing the black metal thing and then wanted to do what I do now with Free Will Agonist and so of the other stuff that I do, which is much more like guitar layer based, because they have three guitar players, Mike Van Art, Steve Duros, and Gambler, and they were all fantastic. They still are, I should say. None of them are dead. They just aren't a band anymore, and I really wish they were, because oh my god, they were huge for me, discovering them. FRS is great. Everyone Into Position is great. I have a couple of other ones of theirs as well later that we'll get to. And then we have Opeth. This is the half-speed remaster of My Arms Your Hearse. And the Still Life, which is one of the first records I ever bought for myself, actually, so I'm surprised that this is still around. Blackwater Park, and Deliverance. I used to have more, but I don't like Opeth that much. These records I still keep around because they have some attachment to me. I might sell Blackwater Park because I'm not... Honestly, I really think this is an overhyped record. It's one of the best sounding records in this collection for sure, and it deserves some of the recognition that it gets, but I think it's way overhyped compared to some of the other ones that they could have really talked about. We have some Pain and Salvation. We have Entropia. I used to have a copy of The Perfect Element, the remix. I hate that too. Very, very fun that like all the prog remixes just are terrible for the most part. 1 Hour by the Concrete Lake. This is one of my favorite records ever. This is definitely in the top 5. It's not quite top 3 anymore, but it is definitely top 5. Remedy Lane. I wanted to do an album like this, except... Well, I'm not going to talk about that, actually. But these are great records. This is another, this is one of the best sounding records in my collection. So thank you to Eric for telling me to get this one. Because it is. And it's also just a great record off the bat. And then we have Pat Metheny, Watercolors. This is the second Pat Metheny record. Pat Metheny, another jazz fusion guitar player legend. His first record has Jaco Pastorius. This does not have Jaco Pastorius, but they are equally as good to each other, in my opinion. And the fretless bass stuff is really, really fun. And I love fretless bass. And then this is the last of the actual, table. The first Periphery record. I actually own everything Periphery has put out on vinyl, besides a few of the little, B-side stuff. So that's P1. And then if you get down here, there's, P2, Juggernaut, P3, P4, and P5. Periphery was a band that I got into when I first started playing guitar, and were the reason I bought a 7-string 2 months into learning guitar and kind of ruining my life that way. But no, I still love them to death, actually. I'm very excited to see them with Spirit Box later this year. We have some Porcupine Tree. We have In Absentia there. We have Dead Wing. If I can grab it one-handed, Jesus. We have Dead Wing. Fear of a Blank Planet is hidden away somewhere. Oh, I put it in the wrong order. Nil Reoccurring, which is an EP that goes along with Fear of a Blank Planet. This record is great musically, and I can't stand the lyrics. But Porcupine Tree, I don't like Steven Wilson. I think he's a bit of a dickhead. But he obviously is very talented, so he kind of deserves a bit of the dickheadedness. I just don't personally like him all that much. We have Dummy by Portishead. Great record. It's so funny how much, we'll get to it, Perdition City, which is one of my favorites, by Ulver, just kind of rips this off. It's very, very funny. So I love this. In the same vein of like the trip-hoppy type stuff, we have Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime. It's the only Queensryche album that I would want to own on vinyl because it is the best, and it's the only good thing that they ever put out. We have Sixth, Death of the Dead Day. This album sounds terrible, like production-wise. It's very compressed and it sounds very plasticky, but the music is fantastic, so I get over it very, very easily. Just absolutely crazy that they were doing the like genty type stuff back in 2006, way before anybody else was doing it. But they were also supremely talented and different from what that scene would become anyway. So yeah. And then we have Odyssey to the West, Slice the Cake. This is the only pressing that they ever did of this record. I'm very happy to have it because this record was rather important to me for years, and then I kind of stopped listening to metal, so I stopped listening to this. But this is still special to me. It's a little bit soured because of whatever's going on with the vocalist. I don't know what happened to that stuff. But this record means a lot to me, actually, so I have to hold on to it. Now we're getting to the point where I can't move the couch anymore. So this is going to be a little bit more difficult. I might not pull out everything anymore. We have our Spirit Box collection. These are the prettiest records that I own. I always buy the prettiest variant, to me personally, of Spirit Box when they put new records out because I love this band. Thank you to my best friend for telling me about this band. But we have Tsunami Sea, Fear of Fear, Eternal Blue, the singles collection, and the self-titled EP album, whatever you want to call it. Great records. Love them to death. Very excited to see them with Periphery, like I said earlier. We have Aja by Steely Dan. Just a classic. I love Deacon Blues. That's the only reason I bought this, honestly. We have the only Steven Wilson solo record that I enjoy, which is The Raven That Refused to Sing Other Stories, because this is the best anybody has ever done 70s prog worship. It also has Alan Parsons on it. I mean, he produced it, but that counts for something. And then we have the Strapping Young Lad stuff. We have Heavy as a Really Heavy Thing, City, and then Alien, which you can't really see because it's hard to get around this corner. Strapping Young Lad is the other heaviest band that I ever listened to. Devin Townsend's first band before his solo stuff really took off as well. For some reason, I really, really, really desperately want to just redo, like, I want to make this record myself. I want to do the whole thing myself, which is kind of bizarre, and I'm not sure if I am crazy for wanting that, but, you know, whatever. We have these Sumac records, which I got because I happen to have store credit at a record store. I don't know them all that well because I've not listened to a ton of Sumac. This is a great record. And this is the first record, I think. Maybe. These have very strange packaging, which I might make like a little addendum to kind of show off. But Sumac is Aaron Turner's project, I think after ISIS, or maybe like concurrently and then after ISIS. Very, very interesting music. We have Supertramp, Team Sleep. Such a great record. I'm glad that they pressed it. I wish they would make another one. I'm going to lightning through the last of these. We have Tesseract, One and Polaris. Nice little prog metal from England. We have Fantafaxith. I've not given this record nearly enough time. This is a fantastic, like, sort of avant-garde black metal band. Toby Driver, Madonna Whore. This is his ballad stuff, so it's just him and a guitar and, like, some other instruments. Great stuff. Whew. Separate Realities by Trioscapes. This has Dan Briggs from Between the Buried and Me in it. It's another, like, jazzy type thing. I got this on a whim. I'm very excited to listen to it later. UK, this has a bunch of legends on it, including Alan. He's on here somewhere. I think he's down there. Just another great, fantastic little jazz fusion record. Perdition City, Over. This is just a ripoff of Portishead, but it's such a great ripoff. I love it. We have Viltarta, which I don't have their newest one, and I'm very disappointed because the newest one's great. This is like a Thal, which is an offset of Gent, which is an offset of progressive metal, and if you care about all that stuff, I am sorry. I'm not going to talk about that right now. But these records are fantastic and actually genuinely inspirational for what I do even now with the, like, pitch shifting and, like, using guitars in different ways than normal. And then I have a bunch of Waylon Jennings in here, which I don't think anybody's really going to be that interested in. And then we have Relayer by Yes. I used to have a much bigger Yes collection, but this is all I have left. And then last but not least, we have the box sets. We have these two Devin Townsend box sets. There were 4 in this series, but I only have these 2 because I am poor and I can't afford much. But one of these has his first 4 solo records, and then one of the DTB albums, and then this one of these has Ziltoid, and then a bunch of live records, and I only have this one for Ziltoid because that's the only one that I care about in this set. We have Lightwork, which was his other most recent record. This is like the deluxe edition, which has extra stuff, like B-sides, which are very cool. Failure, 1992 to 1996, I think this one is called. This is their first 3 records, and then a bunch of B-sides. You fucking love this band. And then we have Ishan. We have his newest record here, which is self-titled, and this is the Hyperborean collection, which is all of his other solo stuff up until this point. Ishan is a huge inspiration for me and always has been, right up there with Devin Townsend and Toby and a bunch of other people. And we have Frames, which is the 3 LP reissue, and I'm very excited that Self-Preserved, While the Bodies Float Up, is getting a 3 LP reissue very soon. I cannot wait for that one to come in because that's such a great record. I can finally tell people to listen to it. And then we have The Fragile, which is a 3 LP because that is a stupid amount of music. This is my favorite Nine Inch Nails record. I love it to death. And then this is Deviations 1, which is sort of like remix, like not remixes, sorry. This is like instrumental and like different mixes and arrangements of the songs from Fragile and some songs that aren't on The Fragile. I haven't listened to this one yet, but I'm really excited to. Yeah, I think that's about it. Sorry that this was kind of scatterbrained and not very informative. I hope it was informative, though. That's sort of where I'm at musically. Thanks for watching if you watched. I really appreciate everything that people do to support me. Yeah, thanks.